Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the question I get asked most often now is, should I pick the XS Max or the S10 Plus? And so I wanted to compare them and help you decide which one to pick and which is best for you. Now there are time codes in the description below so that you can jump to the section that you want to see most. The camera comparison will be at the end, so you can jump right to that by clicking that time code. So let's first talk about the price. The iPhone XS Max comes in at $1,099, and these prices are unlocked, so this is without any discounts. $1,099 with 64 gigabytes of storage, or $1,449 for up to 512 gigabytes of storage. That is not expandable. With the S10 Plus, it comes in at $999 with 128 gigabytes of storage, up to $1,599 with a terabyte of storage, which is expandable through the SD card slot, up to an additional 512 gigabytes of storage using a micro SD. Now the next thing is the design. The design is going to be very subjective. We'll talk about the displays after. Both of them look pretty good. This one looks a little bit more hardy, I guess. The bezels are a little bit bigger, and they both handle the actual sensors up front or the cameras up front a little bit differently. Here we have a symmetric notch. Here we have an infinity O, as Samsung calls it. So this infinity O is cut out. Some people like it, some don't. I think it looks pretty good. This one feels good in the hands. It's very thin on the edge, but both feel built really well. With the iPhone XS Max, you've got stainless steel. Here you have aluminum that's coated, and overall they're both really, really nice. Both glass front and back. They just look a little different. Now let's talk about security for a moment. And speaking of secure, today's sponsor is Hostinger. They offer web hosting that has a guaranteed uptime of 99.9%. They offer affordable plans for small to large businesses and also are very reliable and will give the speed that your customers demand. They also were rated very highly in a shootout between the best web hosting services by CNET. If you'd like your chance to try them out and get 15% off, check out the link in the description at hostinger.com/zollotech or check it out in the description below. Now the security for these devices, as far as unlocking them, is a little bit different. You can do a less secure face unlock with the S10 Plus, but with the iPhone, the only option you have is either a passcode unlock or a secure face unlock by looking at it, and it's pretty fast. So again, unlock, look at it, it's unlocked. Here we can use our thumbprint, and this fingerprint sensor is a little hit or miss. You'll see it was a little bit slow. It does work well as long as you don't mind the time, and it's gotten better over time. In my review, I actually have quite a few problems. It's very inconsistent depending on where you press. Sometimes it says press longer, or sometimes it says press harder. But you'll see from the time I tap it like that, it said no match. Do it again. Then it unlocks. So it does take a little bit longer than a traditional fingerprint sensor, and even a little bit longer than Face ID. However, technically speaking, Face ID is more secure unless you have a twin. So keep that in mind when you're talking about this in particular. If you really don't like Face ID, you've got a really nice option here with the fingerprint sensor, or you can use their less secure Face ID, or of course the traditional method of using your password or passcode. The next thing kind of falls under security as well, and that is privacy. iPhone is very big on privacy. What you do on your device stays on your device and does not share that information with separate apps unless you allow it specifically to do so, such as your location when you're using something like Google Maps. Otherwise, it's on the device. Your face, everything else is stored locally and is not sent to Apple. The only thing that is sent to Apple is your iCloud backups, and your messages are end-to-end encrypted if you use iMessage. Also, if you're using something like Siri and asking a question, it sends that information anonymously, so Apple could never relate it back to a specific person. Now, when it comes to Samsung, Google does use your information, and that helps them better understand what's going on and helps present you with what you like. So if you're using something like Bixby here, it can do that through Samsung, or you can use the Google Assistant to do the same thing, or Google itself. It will predict what it thinks you want to do based on your patterns, but that comes at a cost of sharing that information directly with Google. So you do get better voice recognition. You also get a lot more features because of that, but it's not as private or secure when it comes to that. Although the Samsung does have Samsung Knox, which is an encryption or a way to encrypt the device and keep your information safe on the device. Now, what's strange about the S10 Plus is it comes pre-installed with Facebook. You can't delete it. And I know someone said they got an unlocked version from Samsung or a Verizon version and it didn't have it there. I actually have some Verizon versions that I've checked out. They all have it, and all you can do is disable it. You cannot delete it. You'd have to root it in order to do that. So keep that in mind. Now the next thing is the displays. Now on the iPhone XS Max, keep in mind this display is actually made by Samsung, but based off of Apple's specifications. So they're both using OLED technology, and Samsung actually makes this display. So it's a very, very good display. It's a 6.5 inch display, 2688 by 1242 with 458 pixels per inch. And it has True Tone, and actually True Tone is turned on right now. So you'll see side by side, if I change it, the actual tone of the screen changes. And Samsung does have something similar to that, but it reduces blue light. It's very similar. If we go into here, we also have the blue light filter. So if I turn that off, you'll see they both kind of get white. So we'll leave that on, and we'll turn off night shift as well. So these are all things to help the display look a little bit better. But speaking of the Samsung display does look a little bit better. It's a higher resolution. It's 1440 by 3040 and is 522 pixels per inch. Now, either one, you're not going to be able to see the actual pixels on either of them, even up close. You just can't see them. They're both very high quality, but the XS Max does not get as bright. In fact, this display goes up to about 1200 nits. It's almost double what the XS Max can do on its fullest brightness. So we'll go full bright here. We'll go full bright here, and you probably won't be able to see that in this particular light, but let's go back to the home screen. And this display is just easier to see in bright light, just depending on what you're doing, but they both look very, very bright. And I don't think you'll have an issue in sunlight with that. So let's bring these back down, both to about half. There we go. And let's talk about the actual features of the phone, because when it comes to features, Samsung has kind of been at the front of throwing everything into it, but at a cost of sometimes slowdown and things like that. But here, let's go around the outside edge on the Samsung and then the iPhone. So on the phone, of course, you've got that Infinity O, and this has the stock installed screen protector, which I'll be removing since it's kind of scratched up. The front has a speaker here, and then you have a speaker on the bottom. You've got USB-C, and you've retained the headphone jack. Around the edge, you have a Bixby button, which is sort of reassignable. You can press it once for a feature you'd like, or double tap for Bixby, or reverse those. You've got a volume rocker. You've got a microphone here, expandable storage here, and then your power sleep wake button. On the back, you've got 3 cameras. We'll talk about the cameras later. You also have a heart rate sensor right here. So you have all of those features on this particular phone. Let's go back here and we'll talk about the iPhone. Now with the iPhone, you've got the standard iPhone features. So around the edge, or in the front, you've got speakers here and here. You also have microphones. And then on the side, your volume switch, your silent switch, which is very helpful. And then here you've got power sleep wake, your SIM card slot, and then the cameras on the back. Both have wireless charging, so that part's nice, but the Samsung will charge faster, probably a half hour to an hour faster, and the Samsung has a larger battery. So the Samsung's battery is 4100 milliamp hours. And the Samsung battery will easily last you a day or day and a half, at least in my experience. I had my SIM card in this, my primary SIM card in this, for at least a week, and I used it and easily found it at the end of the day, waking up at about 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. depending on the day, and going to bed around 1 in the morning. I had about 50% battery life left. I normally use social media, and I also use a lot of YouTube, and I take some photos and video with it. Now with the XS Max, you have 3174 as far as the milliamp hour size of the battery. However, the A12 Bionic chip is so efficient that it actually gets very similar battery life, but not as good. I'll find that at the end of the day, I will have about 40 to 50%. What most people are saying in their comparisons when they've used them side by side or doing other things, you'll get about an extra hour out of the S10 Plus. Now, depending on how you use this, this may vary, and also depending on your screen resolution that you set this at. It's not set to its full resolution by default, and that potentially could cause you to use more battery. I actually have it on its highest resolution right now, so it looks really, really good. Now, talking about specs, we have the A12 Bionic, which is incredibly fast. Let's take a look at just some synthetic benchmarks so I can show you what I mean. Now, I've installed Geekbench on both of these, and as you can see, there's no other apps open. So that's it for these particular apps. Let's go ahead and run a CPU benchmark just to show you a comparison. So we'll hit go and see what it does. Now you'll see both have finished, and the multi-core scores are not far off, but the single core is a little bit different. 4,819 on the XS Max versus 3,521 on the S10 Plus. When it comes to multi-core, like I said, they're not too far off. 11,366 on the XS Max and 11,052 on the S10 Plus. So very close. That means they're going to perform pretty well no matter what you do. So for example, if you go into a web browser, I'm at my website on both. We can scroll, and the scrolling is a little bit faster here, but that does not mean the phone is actually faster. It's just the animation speed versus the scroll speed on both of them. So maybe we'll go into the Tesla review here, and you'll see they're going to load very similarly. Most people, if you're using an iPhone, you're not going to mind if it's 0.2 seconds slower than this phone, or vice versa, depending on what you're trying to load. So if you're trying to load a video, for example, and these are both on the same Wi-Fi connection. So let's go ahead and hit play on both of these.
Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this is your Tesla Model 3.
And you'll see it was a little bit faster on the S10 Plus, so that one seemed quicker for that particular instance. Now, if we're going to do something like open the camera, let me just get these ready since they're in different locations. If we open the camera, hit the buttons here, you'll see it's very similar. The iPhone might be a little bit faster there, but that is where the speed really is nice on both of them. I don't think you're going to have an issue with scrolling or anything like that. Again, if we go back to the web browser, scroll, and maybe we'll go to one more website. You'll see that rotates pretty quickly as well. We'll go to Apple first. We'll hit go. And you'll see slightly faster here. Let's try Samsung. So we'll go to Samsung now. And it was faster here. So it's kind of interesting that we got that result. But I think you get the idea. Whatever you're doing is going to be nice and fast no matter what. If you want to go into a folder, the animations are similar as far as speed goes. If you want to go into something like music, they're going to load similarly. So most of the experience as far as speed goes is really very close. Now, both of these have IP68 water resistance. Technically, though, that does not make them waterproof. I recently had an issue with the iPhone XS Max where this is a replacement because water got into it, and it was only in about a foot of water or maybe 2 feet of water for under 5 minutes where I dropped it. I'm not going to test that anymore, but they both are technically water resistant. That means that if you drop them in a puddle, they'll probably be fine, but if you leave them underwater for any period of time, that's probably a bad idea. And that leads us on to the camera. Now, the cameras on both of these are quite good. They both do 4K 60. Technically, the S10 Plus does do HDR, so that part's nice. If we go into the settings here, we do have HDR Plus as far as one of the settings for the actual video. So if we go to advanced recording options, we can turn on HDR10 Plus. So we will get HDR if we want that. We also have high efficiency video, so HEVC on both, and unlimited recording time when it comes to 4K video. So the videos are very good, but let's take a look at both photos and videos and see how they stack up together. Now with the forward-facing cameras, this is where we see the biggest difference. With the iPhone, it's in 1080p. The Galaxy S10 Plus is actually in 4K. So you do have a little bit higher resolution there, although the S10 tends to smooth the face, and everything's in default settings. You could change it, but right now everything's default, and you'll see the actual lens looks a little bit different as well as far as its depth and angle. Now this is the rear-facing camera on both of these. They're both pretty high-quality 4K video. This is recording at 30 frames per second as they both have image stabilization. Now the one thing you can do with the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus that you cannot do with the iPhone is you can go to ultra-wide. So if we widen this way out, you'll see it's ultra-wide. And we can get more of the image, and it actually will look a little bit more stable because it's so wide. Now if we stop and then go back to regular, that looks pretty good, but we can zoom to 2x on both of them. And so we've got 2x, and you'll see the transition is a little bit different on both of them, but they both work well. I'm not using an external mic or anything like that on either of these, and I think you get the idea of what this should look like. Now, when we talk about reception of both of these devices, the S10 Plus wins here a little bit, and that's because it's using Qualcomm's processor and modem as well, and their modem is just superior at this point to the Intel modem that's in here. While technically you can also get a 5G version of this, that won't be available just yet, or it might be by the time you're watching this, but the actual modem in here just seems to have better reception. In fact, I don't have a SIM card in here, but it's picking up, I guess, T-Mobile signal strength, and you'll see that the Wi-Fi is strong too. Of course, that should be strong on both. With the XS Max, Wi-Fi seems to work fine, but for me, the LTE is really hit or miss. Sometimes I have to turn on airplane mode and then turn it back off in order to get a connection again. So it's been hit or miss, and that's a known complaint for people with the latest generation of iPhones. Now, finally, I wanted to compare the speakers for you so you can hear what they sound like. Let's go here. Now, I really could pick any one of these. I guess I'll pick the car review just because it's kind of neutral here. I've set this up to be at the beginning of my video, and we'll hit play, and then I'll turn the speakers up and see which one goes louder. So we'll go ahead and hit play.
Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this is the Advertisement 3. Now, what you may not realize is I am just as much of a car guy as I am into technology, and I thought this was the best of both worlds combined into one. So I've been driving it for a couple days, and I want...
Now, they both sound good. They're both clear, but I would say the S10 goes a little bit louder, but I would say the iPhone XS Max is a little bit clearer. Also, in using this for video, I would say the stereo sound is about the same, maybe a little bit better on the S10 Plus, as this seems to get a little bit louder on this littler speaker here up at the top. But for the most part, it's very, very similar, and I think they're very close together. Now, one of the other features that you don't get with iOS that you do get here that many people have been wanting for iOS is split view or split screen. So maybe I want to open a web browser. We were on the Samsung page and open something else. Let's just tap here. We'll open in split screen. And maybe I'll open YouTube as well, and then I can go between the two of them. We can open either one, get rid of them, and maybe watch a video, maybe open another one. We'll open this one in split view, and maybe continue to watch a video and use the internet as well at the same time. It's a really nice feature that hopefully they bring to iOS, but currently isn't available and is available on the Galaxy phones. Additionally, with the OS, one of the advantages you do get with Android is you get to customize this. So I'm not a particular fan of Samsung's One UI. Some people love it. I don't particularly like it. So if I go to settings, I'll go to home screen. You'll see I've done this quite a few times. Home screen. And then I go to home screen default apps, go to home screen One UI. I can change the way the entire thing looks and feels. So you'll see now it looks like a traditional Pixel device. I've got Google Home over here. It's very, very nice. So it's nice that I have that option, and I can change it to look and feel like I want. If I don't like the scroll speed, I can change it. So that part's really nice as well. One of the additional features that the S10 Plus has is wireless power share. So you'll see I've got it turned on here. You just flip over the phone, set the iPhone on it, and now it's charging. So you can charge a device, Galaxy Buds, or whatever you'd like using that. Now, when we're talking about the ecosystem of both of these devices, Apple's is very integrated. It's very well put together, and if you have people that have iPhones, iMessage works really well. Specifically in the United States, I don't know anyone that doesn't use iMessage that has an iPhone, and it's so well integrated with things like different Macs, MacBooks, iMacs, whatever you have, and iPads, that it makes sense just to use this and go between those devices. But if you don't have the Apple ecosystem in your family or within your friends, and you have this device, you can easily use something like Google Messages and use messages.android.com to relay through a computer. And then, of course, you've got access to all of Google's applications as well. So it really depends on which one works best for you. Both operating systems are very mature at this point and work well, and both are pretty stable. I didn't really have any crashes on this phone. Maybe I've had an app crash here, but no more than I have on an iPhone as well. So they both have app crash issues from time to time, and I think overall they're about the same as far as stability is concerned. And whatever ecosystem works best for you is really the one to pick. Now, again, talking about speed, when it comes to both of these devices, some people say that the Samsung devices will slow down over time. I don't know that that's going to be the case with this particular one. It seems super fast all the time, at least over the week I've been using it. No issues here. It doesn't matter what launcher I'm using, what app I'm using. Things just seem to be nice and fast, and you can go back in and out of whatever you'd like, and no slowdown whatsoever. You don't really get a slowdown here as well, and Apple kind of got caught with slowing things down, and I don't think they're going to do that too much on the iPhones anymore going forward as far as longevity goes. So that's it for the S10 Plus versus the XS Max. Hopefully that helps you get a better idea of which one to decide to purchase for yourself, and I'd love to hear which one you purchased, or if you want the smaller size. They're very similar. They're just basically different size and different price. But let me know which one works best for you or what you decided to do. Maybe you kept your older phones because you like the older ones better with the fingerprint reader here, or maybe even 8 Plus with a fingerprint reader down here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description as I always do. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and give it a like if you enjoyed the video. If not, the other one's okay too. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.